Welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is our countdown to two-a-days series, our daily look at an area football team and the key questions we're going to be answering about that team in our August 17th preseason preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, it's the Eastland Mavericks that are the topic of conversation.
Yeah, and this is an Eastland team that I think will be leaning pretty heavily this year on just their program continuity and just the experience of some of those guys through that program. If they're going to repeat some of the success they've had, they're coming off a 6-6 season and a 4-1 district championship season. But they lost 14 of 26 Letterman, returned 6 starters on both sides of the football, and will really be replacing a lot of their skill talent in particular. A lot of their production on offense has graduated. And it's going to be replaced by some guys who really don't have a whole lot of production, at least. I mean, they've got some talent, but it's kids that are stepping into some new roles. So I think this will be a year that will test the program that James Morton's built a little bit. They've got a 6-4 JV team they're calling up from, so there's some talent, but it's going to be young talent this year.
Yeah, if there's a strength to this ball club, it's going to be along the offensive front. They've got most of their starters back along the offensive front, a lot of seniors up front. But they're not the biggest group in the world. What they are is experience. So you're not going to see a whole lot of mistakes up there. And that's going to be really the key to this ball club as those young skill personnel, mature, is be able to count on that offensive line, maybe to get a push up front, get some yards on the ground and buy them some time because it really is a young group. Again, they did have a 6-4 JV. So their kids coming up are accustomed to winning. They know how to win ball games. So they're just going to need a little bit of time, a little bit of seasoning to get their sea legs. And, then we'll see what happens after that. But this is going to be a good group of kids once they develop.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned the thing I think it makes this a really interesting team this year is we talk about the young kids, but you are right. There's a ton of experience on the line. So it's going to be a good group there kind of paving the way. But behind those guys and around those guys, it's going to be a bunch of guys who really are not accounted for a ton of yardage to this point. So that I think is kind of an interesting dichotomy there. And we'll see kind of if, like you said, that offensive line can carry those young guys early, kind of make life a little easier for those kids so they're able to get, kind of things underway. But this Eastland team's always fun because this is a team that always plays a really tough non-district schedule to get loads up the schedule. And this is what happened last year. They kind of went into district with a pretty unimpressive record, and then they hit district and play well. I'm interested to see if this team can do the same thing for different reasons this year. If it can just kind of, these young kids can kind of get that experience and kind of get their legs underneath them, and then by district be playing at a level where they can maybe make the same type of run.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dan, with this schedule, if you look at Eastland's non-district portion, it's going to be a trial by fire. They're going to grow up in a hurry. Those juniors that are out there learning how to play on Friday night, they're going to start off with what we expect to be a very improved Wall team at home. Then they travel to Clyde, which is never easy. They host an excellent Holly team on September the 9th. They face Breckenridge on the 16th, and Breckenridge is expecting to have one of the best teams they've had in a few years now this season. And then, of course, they're on the road, and we all know about Jim Ned. That's good. I'll tell you what, that's a trial by fire. Those young kids are going to get some seasoning before district, and there it is.
It's funny. They're basically playing that old 3-3-8 D1 schedule back when they were in it. Yeah, it was so tough back then, and have only added Holly, which is one of the very top Class 2A teams in the state. So You're talking about a brutal schedule. One, they could very well, if Clyde improves as much as some expect, and if Breckenridge is as improved as some expect, I mean, they could very well enter district with an 0-5 record. But that doesn't necessarily, that won't necessarily define this team, because I think by the time they hit district, they'll be in pretty good shape. And we'll go through that district schedule. They open on October 7th at Jacksboro, which will be a really tough game. Then they go follow that with a home game against Merkel, a road trip to Millsap, a home game against Dublin, and then close out their regular season schedule at Comanche. So, wow, you look at that non-district schedule. If they can stay healthy through it, I think they'll be better for it. But that is a gauntlet.
If we're going to pick key games or a key game, it's difficult in this district to single out one game and say it's the key game because it's such a competitive group, and all the games were tight last year. But I think if they hold serve and just hold their home field, and if they beat Merkel and beat Dublin at home, they'll land a playoff spot. Then that gives them the opportunity to do whatever on the road against Jacksboro, Millsap, or Comanche. But if they hold serve and win those home games, they're in.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be interesting, particularly after that non-district schedule, to see if this team can do what some of the past Eastland teams have done and really hit their stride once they get to district. I think that's going to be, hard to do with a game at Jacksboro right off the bat, but if you look, there are some obviously some winnable games in this district, and this is going to be a very, very competitive district, as we talked about with the other teams in this league. From top to bottom, there's not a whole lot separating any of these teams, so you're going to have a lot of really good, close, tight games all year in district, and it's just going to come down to who executes, and we'll see if a young team by that point in the season is ready to execute at that level. But this should be, if Eastland fans probably need to be patient early, especially against that schedule. Record wise, it may not be what you want it to be after non-district schedule, but if they can just gain the experience against that really tough competition that they're meant to gain, I think it'll be much better. It'll be better for them in the long run.
Yeah, I think Eastland fans just need to look at that non-district portion of their schedule as seasoning, getting those, if the young kids have to take the lumps in that non-district schedule, if they can stay healthy through that, at least they'll be battle tested going into that district, which is going to be a competitive district. So,
and as tough as that is, there are some chances for competitive games. This Eastland team has played those teams in the past and played them well, but that is just in succession. Those are 5 really, really tough games. So we'll kind of see how they handle them.
I wouldn't look for them to wow people with the win-loss record, given their youth and the difficulty of that schedule. But I think I think this team will see postseason play.
Yeah, I do too. And what a great experience for those linemen we talked about. This is an opportunity for them to go up against, nothing they see in district will be any tougher than what they see in those first 5 games. So and then same for those young skill guys as they kind of come into their own. So it should be a fun Eastland season. And I'm excited to see what they do in district, just because this is a team that seems to always be, by the time they hit district, they're playing at a high level.
And with that, it's about time to wrap up tonight's edition of the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, the Eastland Mavericks. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at bigcountrypreps.com. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage. And please note, we're going with the same prices that we did back in 2018. Despite inflation, we've stayed the same.
We'd also like to remind you one more time before we close out this episode of our Countdown series to be on the lookout for that August 17th preseason football preview. We're just going to have a ton of area football content. You'll definitely not want to miss that. In the meantime, thank you for joining us for this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Days series, and make sure you join us again tomorrow when we'll be talking about the Merkle Badgers here at bigcountrypreps.com.